Nope.
Mission: amaze anyone behind the wheel, break records in braking system, electronic compartment, and four-cylinder engine from superbike world. To think that for BMW the capital M has always been linked to sportiness but on four wheels. Considering the pre-muscles and the values on the field, an exception can be made. M1000XR, the third sister after the RR with the full face helmet, and the naked R, all three daughters of the wind, with winglet wings keeping the front wheel firmly on the asphalt, impressive performance. The most extreme crossover ever, 201 HP, 0-100 in 3.2 sec, reaches 200 km/h in 7.4 sec, over 275 km/h top speed. To these numbers, we add a lot of carbon and a pinch of titanium, and the scale stops with her at 223 kilo. But enough, I'll tell you later. What a road. BMW M1000XR. Just a few kilometers, a handful of curves, excellent asphalt to understand what this XR is made of, takes the engine of its sister naked, the R, equipped with Shiftcam tech, i.e., variable timing not on the S1000XR. The car I'm driving is packed with options, the most extreme being the presence of two carbon fiber circles that cut the total weight by 3 kilos. But anyone with some knowledge of the laws of physics understands that lighter suspended masses correspond to lightness in driving and much less effort in changing direction. What's on the command bridge of the M1000XR? Let's go in order. The M logo clearly visible with motorsport colors, traditional instrumentation with the display seen before, but the incredible thing is how the motorcycle can be personalized while driving. Mappings obviously that can be managed on the right side of the handlebar, rain, road, dynamic race Pro 1. Then you can go even further into the setup. Among other things, it had come out, attention, ABS setup. It means that it had been adjusted to have sliding at the rear. Let's delve deeper into the details of this super cool equipment, which includes the sport option with alternative displays. Among other things, I have previously seen the inclination indicator while driving, the intervention of DTC, dynamic traction control, and the deceleration in meters per second squared during aggressive braking. If you do not like this digital equipment, you can select another pair, with the lap time indicator also, and the customization is extremely fascinating. Instead, let's explore the more specific management of the bike. If you want to customize not only the electronics, but also the suspension setup. To do this, you need to enter the settings menu, then go to assist, and only in the Race Pro option, you can work on the suspension setup. On the other hand, in the dynamic and road modes, the suspension settings are pre-selected and cannot be modified. Damping is evidently activated. We descend. In this particular case, it indicates that you are solely engaged in driving. Assist, vehicle setting, let's descend, we descend, riding mode, selection, all the available riding modes that can be chosen, configuration, and here we enter into the details of the proposed setup that was presented to us with the Race Pro configuration, which provides a comprehensive range of riding modes for selection and allows for personalized configuration. Adjust engine behavior, engine braking, traction control, wheelie control, and ABS. Control of wheelie and intervention in, for example, backflip, stoppie with control and intervention for safety. So, in brief, fundamentally, you can truly personalize this aspect of the motorcycle's personality. And now we also take the pleasure of hearing the engine, the four-cylinder with 201 horsepower. Furthermore, I also demonstrate the speed at which it rises and meticulously count the number of revolutions each time we playfully engage the engine. This experience is truly delightful and satisfying. Now, let us return to the joy of driving and continue our exhilarating journey on the road. I report the MGPS lap trigger and MGPS data logger accessory, which is a real telemetry with a database of 300 circuits scattered around the world to detect one's performance every time they enter the track. I establish a premise. Are you prepared to experience a truly unique crossover encounter like no other? Well, if you choose to challenge, confront, and encounter the BMW M 1000 XR, you must take this into consideration because it entirely and fundamentally alters the perception of driving, particularly when you consider the fact that we are operating a crossover vehicle. High handlebar, little protection from the air, overall comfortable position, but under this carbon and winglet embellished suit, which are the aerodynamic appendages that allow for greater front load, there is actually a superbike in all respects. And now I'll explain why. If aesthetically, the winglets, wings and deflectors scattered on the fairing may seem only aesthetic, they actually contribute to making the front end of the M more stable from 100 km/h and generate a load of 12 kg at 220 km/h. And those speeds are easily reached. Then there are the fine adjustments of the semi-active suspensions that can be modified in every parameter, including the steering damper. To control is a sophisticated electronic brain that manages factors to optimize the 201 HP at 12,750 RPM and the 113 Nm torque. Before going into the details of the 150-kilometer test we conducted today and the average consumption recorded by the computer, which settled at 6.7 liters per 100 kilometers, I would like to point out that the motorcycle I tried today is equipped with the M pack, which is the M accessory package that makes it even more extreme. It is characterized by a series of carbon aesthetic elements scattered throughout in the most beautiful places, including the fairing, the rear part of the instrumentation, here near the ignition button, but above all for the two carbon fiber wheels that weigh 3 kg less than the standard model. The presence of these two carbon circles actually generates an even faster, even more responsive driving dynamics, which you have to get used to in order to fully enjoy it. And they turn the M1000 XR into a curve-devouring animal that is not only the speed at which it accelerates is even greater, the lower inertia of the wheel weight translates into an easier time revving the engine, but more than ever, when you ride it, the right, left, and the ability to close it to the curves initially can also put you in a bit of difficulty, because it is so fast, so quick, that sometimes, indeed, often, in the first kilometers, you have to keep correcting the trajectory, otherwise you find yourself too far inside. Demonstration that these elements, which are not only aesthetic but are actually functional for driving, also radically transform the character of a motorcycle, as has already happened in the past with the M1000RR tested last year at Mugello, and I invite you to go see Stefano Cordara's test, and then also the sister M1000R, the naked one, also tested, and it has really turned out to be another beast to have a lot of fun with. High handlebar, braking system with 320mm discs made by Nissan derived directly from racing experience and a dry weight of 223 kilograms contribute to making the driving pleasure a typically BMW M experience. Everything is dedicated to sportiness. It is not a coincidence that side bags are not provided, and therefore the passenger is not particularly welcome. I begin with the simplest aspects, namely the driving position. It is raised, allowing you to easily touch the ground with both feet. The tips of both feet can touch the ground, indicating a good fit. The area around the tank seat is slim, enabling a smooth descent without major issues. The wide handlebar, in my opinion, is a truly successful feature, particularly when compared to the S1000XR I previously tested. The seat has a slightly more linear shape and is less sunken, which eliminates the need for assuming a somewhat constrained and low position. Here instead it's a bit higher. In my opinion, it remains the limit of the length of the space for the driver, a bit too little. In short, it somehow forces you to maintain the indicated position, but the handlebar is beautiful, the controls are beautiful. In this case, the levers are fully adjustable. Moreover, the M package also allows for movement in case of a slide, which I obviously don't wish on anyone, and also all the controls, even the feet, are fully adjustable. Both the footboard with a pivot for rotation, both on the right and left side, and of course the two levers for the rear brake and gear lever, which are fully adjustable. Driving position that only partially exploits the protection of the windshield, which can be adjusted at two levels. I recommend keeping it generally low until speeds close to highway speeds, because keeping it high actually creates, at least for my height, a sort of swirling air that is a bit annoying, especially in the rear part. When, on the other hand, if you decide to hit hard, i.e. exceed 90 km/h, but also more, the fairings protection is useful, but it doesn't work miracles. In the end, we are partially invested anyway by the airflow and to have the best air protection. Besides, I said at the beginning that we are driving what is a version of a superbike disguised as a crossover. You have to hide very well behind the fairing to avoid obviously excessive airflows. The power doesn't lack. This engine is the epitome of BMW tech, extracted from the S1000RR, Monaco's first superbike, shared, as mentioned earlier, between M1000XR and M1000R. Let's discuss the beating heart of the M1000XR, which is equipped with 4 cylinders, producing 201 horsepower and a substantial amount of torque, resulting in a formidable and powerful performance. I fondly recall the driving experiences, even with the S1000XR, which had already astonished me with its performance at that time. Here we are really talking about a higher level that inevitably generates an incredible addiction, especially while driving. Surprising, but those who know this engine know well what I am talking about, is the ability to have elasticity from 2000 RPM up to 15,000 RPM, typical of 4-cylinder engines, but so well calibrated and adjusted, also thanks to the fact that the 3 gears, the 3 final ratios of the gearbox, 4th, 5th, and 6th, and even the final drive, are shortened, allowing you to drive in excess in any type of road condition you may encounter. Today, more than once, I've traveled for several kilometers even on a fairly winding 4th, 5th gear route, leaving the bike really slide because smoothness helps a lot, but helped by a back that this bike has, which is really amazing. What is important to note is that there is a strong connection between gas pedal, engine, and rear wheel response that easily leads to complete absorption with speed without realizing that you are going really fast. In addition, this engine has a transient in the passage that can be from 100 kilometers per hour in 6th gear. I always mention it to make you understand what power and vigor this engine has, up to speeds well beyond those of highways in a very short period of time. So it's a bike that deserves, by virtue of the additional brand, this M that it carries, the carbon that it proudly displays, and all the components it has, to be treated with respect. Also because it's a bike that makes you go fast right away, to do things that you wouldn't normally do, because it's helped by a series of functional technical elements such as the support electronics that make you a little crazy. I say it with pleasure. You go fast easily, and it allows you without any obvious effort also, because the support of the high handlebar adds a decidedly advantageous lever arm when there is also a need to drive in direction changes. However, I'd like to point out that this generous, abundant, powerful, infinite, truly infinite engine still brings with it heat emitted during strong driving, especially on the right side. And once again, I point out that there are also some vibrations that in the past were greater. Now they are mainly felt on the handlebars, and that, however, are a constant in all the trips that are made, both when traveling as a couple and when traveling at high speeds. Is there a change? It's good enough. The quick shifter assists in making the gear change fast. I appreciate it uphill even though there is always a small step, perhaps with a slightly rubbery action. It is better when going up than when going down. Although I have to say that the behavior is always impeccable, there has never been a stumble. Even with the support of the clutch, which is quite soft, I must say with pleasure that it has always worked very well. Even with the different starts from a standstill, always a good response, never a change of gear. A game on the clutch has never been created, even when driven decisively. Regarding the electronics aspect, there are numerous words to describe BMW's commitment to advancing technology in both their racing endeavors and their production models. Not only do they prioritize the evolution of electronics in competitions, but they also incorporate it into their road vehicles, providing a highly beneficial electronic package for driving. Mappings can be freely explored, obviously the classic rain, road, dynamic, to delve deeper into the various Race Pro 1, 2, and 3, if they are even activated by the package that can be purchased from the available options. You can go into detail, both in the management of suspensions, and I refer to Race 1 and then obviously in the other families. You can go into detail on every detail, which instead is not possible with dynamic and road and rain, because they are 3 preset mappings. Here the semi-active suspensions, however, are very useful for adjusting both the fork and the shock absorber finely, with which there is a range from 0 to 14 for both damping, therefore compression. That the return of the mono and fork allows you to really customize both the comfort or driving dynamics and the electronic support for the engine's character, which means wheeling control, traction control. Among other things, the DTC traction control is adjustable when traveling in a more sporty configuration on 7 levels here on the left side very quickly and functional for driving, plus all the various parameters, also the stoppie control, for example, and how to activate simply, I think I have already said it, the wheelie in control. To sum up, in actuality, a genuine superbike also from the standpoint of micrometric adjustments that can be carried out at home by the user. Two ways to be M1000XR: in white, less extreme, with forged aluminum wheels, but can order with carbon fiber set, or total black, which does not give up any carbon details, and all fine adjustments of controls on handlebars and footrests. Regrettably, we have concluded in this instance. I do so reluctantly because these captivating motorcycles of such high quality, which make one feel immediately proficient in driving, are returned to BMW, the manufacturer, in this particular case, and it is truly a shame to part with them. So I definitely reiterate what I liked. Overall, a motorcycle that is, from the point of view of the chassis, both from the point of view of performance and electronics, is an excellent reference point in the category. In fact, it is only for performance at this moment. It sets the rules of the world of sports crossovers, and the others will have to roll up their sleeves if they want to somehow keep up with it. That being said, a motorcycle that deserves to be treated even with white gloves, because, as I mentioned before, it is a motorcycle that effortlessly maintains its inflation, and losing the measure of speed and pure performance is something that can easily happen. However, what has been said is valid, as it has at its disposal, for example, a high-level braking system, Nissin monoblock calipers with Brembo discs, a combination that, in my opinion, works well. The braking is always precise, modulable. There are no intervals or delays when I engage the front lever, which then presses the pads against the disc, but the operation is good. I have never had the perception of a stand-up from the front tire and the brake even when the bike is leaned, meaning that when the bike is leaned, it tends to lift up. The behavior of the rear brake is good. Still what I said, from a comfort perspective, there are limitations, maybe the seat position, heat on the right side, and vibrations on the handlebar. For the rest, it is a motorcycle that, it must be said, performs really well. Enjoy for this MPAC package that it has, for the performances that are in play, and for how agile and incredibly fast it manages to be a crossover, in this case, branded BMW. I hope I haven't forgotten anything on this motorcycle, but on all these motorcycles that are sporty derivatives with lots of performance and electronic controls to manage, you frequently run the risk of getting a little lost. Advice is, whatever you decide when riding a motorcycle like this, take one step at a time. If you preload or close a suspension register in a banal way, try it and then take a step back if not convinced. Don't work on fork and shock together. Always reason rationally because, for instance, preload of shock adjusted at back, not electronic. That being said, numerous upcoming services are emerging because the season is hot. We are all back on the road, so do you have any questions? Curiosity, I'll answer you right away. The passenger couldn't understand how it works. I confirm that it is not equipped for suitcases, so if you want to go around Zeneto, or instead of Zeneto, use this area here. That said, any questions, uncertainties? Comparable to any other monster? Let us know. We're here. Thank you for following. See you at the next service. Goodbye.